Welcome to the Graves into Gardens podcast. I am your host, Jay. This is my wife, Aneta, who's just getting the last bit of food down before we're live. She is just coming off another call, so she didn't have much time in between, like 5 minutes in between to eat and jump on. So, hi, honey.
Hello. I made it.
You made it. I was a little stressed there, but thank you. I'm trying to adjust your peakedness on my end, but I think it's just the light. She's not normally that white.
Oh, you're so sweet.
She's not normally that pasty. It's the lighting, so it's me. I do look pretty tan compared to you, though, which is kind of cool.
You do. I don't know I think it's this light here. Maybe if I adjust it, but I also don't want to mess around with it.
No, don't. And I would have done it if you would have given me a little more time in between the two.
Anyway,
welcome
everyone. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, thank you, everybody. If you are joining us either on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, I guess, please say hello in the chat, and we will see that and bring it on stage. And anything you want to comment on, or what is all that noise in the background? Is that one of our kids?
Your ice maker.
Oh, it's my ice maker. All right, it's my ice maker. All right, it's all right. Yes. Please say hi in the chat. If you have any questions or comments or any clarification on anything, just let us know. So again, I'm joined here with my wife Aneta again for part 2 of her side of things, her perspective on my death, and what that was like for her. And before we start, I wanted to do a couple things. One, since it's Thanksgiving week, I wanted to talk about that a little bit and say happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you guys had a good one. Lots of food and family time and gratitude.
Yeah, so speaking of gratitudes, I know we're going to do this at the end, and maybe we duplicate ourselves a little bit, but I wanted to take a minute to say thanks for a couple things. One, to Boyne Mountain. We unexpectedly stayed in town. We were supposed to be in Cleveland, but Juju was sick, and with Papa being not in the greatest health, we decided to not go. It'd be the best thing to stay home, and she was well enough to go out, and so we did, and we were thankful that for Boyne, and we had a really nice day.
Yeah, absolutely. So nice celebration. Great seeing all the families out and about. And people were skiing. It was opening season.
Yeah,
opening day of ski season.
Yeah,
so,
that was cool.
Good times.
Cool. Almost
anyone wants to come visit us, come visit.
Yeah. I also want to thank you, honey, for doing this show. I know I sprung it on you last week, and sorry. And this isn't me just trying not to cry. This is me just not being able to do it. No, it was much more helpful than I thought it was going to be. And after the show yesterday,
last time, a week ago.
Yeah. Last week, I was so thankful, and it opened up my mind to a lot of different possibilities with this show for me, but also for us. Some of the things that we've talked about doing, but the one thing I walked away with the most was that you're the one person I want to talk to about this stuff the most, and we just haven't, because life, we're busy, and part of that is part of this story is that you are stressed and overworked and carrying the load, and so there isn't a whole lot of time, and trying to play Mr. Mom as best I can with the kids, and they're at home for school, so I take care of all that stuff. So there just hasn't been time, and there's also been times with both of us we don't necessarily want to talk. We weren't ready, or whatever. So it was. I guess I didn't realize how much I was needing to have these conversations with you. And so this is kind of a way for us to carve out this time purposely that we can.
So let's do it in public.
Yes, let's do it in public. Well, we talked about this before. Again, we're part of our deal moving forward is being authentic and transparent and you know,
Sure.
so
And part of it is too, talk about life. I mean, we're not the only couple that's busy and, stressed and overwhelmed sometimes. And so, and looking for that connection, with our spouses and, while juggling, the day to day. So part of it is, we can't wait until we feel we're ready necessarily, because that could never happen. Like if I waited to, okay, well, I have to first shower, I have to first do this, have to first do that, and then this, and then this, and I have to be well rested. It's like, then it's not going to happen. So part of it is just being willing to say, this is how I'm showing up today, and do the best we can.
yeah. Yeah, and again, I think there's just been so many times that I just don't. There's just been so much going through my head, and a lot of it is going back to that first night when the heart attack happened, and not wanting to call Sam or anybody else. I don't want to be a burden to people, and what I'm going through is a lot, and so I keep it in, I guess, and try to work on it on my own, and most of it is stuff that I need to work out on my own, and with God, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. But there's just my network of circle of friends right now is very small, and I don't have that outlet. And again, more than anything, I want to have these conversations with you, partly because you're my best friend, partly because you're my wife, but partly because I want you to understand a little bit more than you do, and I want to understand from your perspective things. So anyways, so I would just want to say thank you. Anything you want to say thanks for? I have a couple more, but
In regards to this, or just in
just in
general.
general, happy Thanksgiving, Tone. Could be
Um,
anything. She's talked out. She's talked out, folks. This is gonna be a good one.
I just got off a Zoom call. It was an
All right,
initial meeting.
I will move
So
on to
I,
my
but
next one. Interrupt
okay.
me when you want to. I also want to say thank you for Elevation. Um, I'll get into Elevation, various times throughout the show. But this week, I can say this every day. It's just they were such a crucial part of God put me there to help me get through the last 18 months, and every day. I mean, it's really every day, and they are. I mean, I always say that Jesus saved me. That's a topic too. Sent me back, but Elevation saves me every day. It's their words and lyrics and songs that that I feel is when I feel closest to God, when I'm listening to them, singing with them, um, uh, and sometimes that's all I need is just to feel like I'm closer to God, and so the music plays a huge role in that. Um, and so the other thing that leads me to my last one is Heartbeat Radio. Um, Heartbeat Radio is it morphed into something different for me this season in a bigger thing, because God is, gave me a vision for this, and he's I feel like he's calling me to tell people stories through music, and to be honest with you, I said this on the first episode of this one. Even though I'm interested in the music and love it, and it's such a big part of me, and this one, I don't really want to do either one. To be honest with you, I'm tired, and I'm trying to listen to God, and to me, it's very clear that He's asking me to do both of these. Now, there's other shows I'd like to do. It's not that I don't want to be on camera. You know me. I'm good with that, but these two in particular, I don't really want to do. But anyway, so I feel
Well, because
God's
I
call.
also think you're not doing sports. It's the, there's a vulnerability aspect to this that is, a
Uncomfortable.
challenge
Yeah.
for anyone.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable. So that's, to be expected.
Yeah, but Heartbeat Radio has been I've loved it so far, the two episodes I've done, and I just did the Christmas episode, and I so much enjoyed it and felt that God was with me during that episode, even though we had major difficulties getting it recorded. I won't go into it, but it was comical and it was long.
And it was almost like a
So
country
would you
love
stop?
episode. It was a
Okay,
lot of country,
okay.
but I will say this: I did listen to it, and It was
Wait a minute.
I
Wait a minute.
almost.
I don't know if I have sound effects. I don't have a sound effect. You listen to it.
Were you gonna Rick roll me
I
or
was gonna, yeah, I
something?
was gonna rickroll you or something.
So no, I did listen to the songs and I did enjoy the Christmas playlist that you
Yeah,
had.
I
So
think it's an
I think
amazing.
I don't think I've heard. I've never. I think each song was new to me. So even though the
Yeah,
song was one of the songs, some of the songs were traditional Christmas
mhm,
songs. I had never heard that rendition of it. So
yeah,
thank you for that. And it was a little country, but I know we have a lot of friends who love country music. So
yes,
I
yeah.
will,
I did say y'all
it
that
was
one time.
different. You did say y'all,
Uh,
which threw me for a loop, but
hi,
yes.
hi, Nancy and Richard.
Hi,
They are,
Nancy
of
and
course,
Richard.
joining us. We love you. Um, yeah, so Heartbeat Radio was a lot of fun this week, and I do the collection of songs. I think the playlist is great. I really enjoyed doing the show. It really, I feel God moving that along forward. I'm getting better, even though I struggle with the talking because of the aphasia. Um, it's still the video dimension of it. I think adds something to the show, and visually, I think it looks really great. But I just had a really good time, and I think it's a really good episode. And even if it's just the playlist, because you can listen to the playlist version, and then I have an extended playlist version, which is like 50 songs long. So you just kind of put on. But I enjoyed it. But I wanted to say thank you to God for making me do that, because I am enjoying it. And I see what He's trying to do. I guess that's one of the things about it for me is it's really the first time I've seen. I can see why he's asking me to do it. The other things he's still kind of leading me through right now. I don't necessarily see it or see why necessarily, but this one because he's revealed things to me about this. Remember, I was at Panera last year when that vision just kind of just flooded me with all these ideas and thoughts, and I see what he wants to do with this. I see what he wants this to become. So anyway,
Hmm.
so thank you.
And it's fun. It's
Yeah,
fun. And I'm actually looking forward to, I know you put out a call for people's stories. Um, and I think that's what we need. If you look at the human needs list, our number one need is for connection and belonging.
yeah,
And I feel that that's what music does. It provides that connection and feeling of belonging because it is universal.
yep,
Um, so, I mean, I remember being in Poland and we'd listen to songs in different languages because they just played a variety of music. Um, and it just everyone would get up and dance. It didn't matter if we understood the song. We had the same beat, and so or we got up and danced to the beat. And when we do understand the language and it is powerful and uplifting and God centered, that has a whole other dimension to that, which is really cool.
yeah. And I think again, this we're going on about this a little bit longer than I wanted to, but it's it's kind of coming to me now. One of the things that I've always had these moments in my life that I've chased, that I've had these moments where I just feel like I'm, for lack of better words, that I was like as high as I've ever been emotionally, and I feel like I'm on cloud nine. So there's been these performances and through music or performances that these moments that I've had and I remember distinctly, and it's so I'm so moved. I'm moved to tears and just physically it's like shaking and just so overwhelmed with awe. And one of when God was revealing Heartbeat Radio to me, He showed me and connected the dots to those moments because I never understood how they came about or why they were what they were. And I had this moment at Panera when all it came to me, and he started connecting these dots and started showing me why things happened in my life. And he was like, he said to me, hey dummy, it's like that was me with you at that moment. Like God was with me in that moment. He was inside me at those moments, and I was experiencing the awness of God in those moments. So it was so overwhelming. In one of the episodes I wanted to do last year, which I'll eventually get to, is sharing those moments and those songs. A lot of them are for musicals. Sorry, honey. Um, and so, but yeah, music's really powerful. It's like I said, love is the most powerful force in the world. Music has to be pretty close up there. So anyway,
Sure. Sure. Yes.
All right. So one of the things I wanted to do today, which we're not going to do because neither one of us prepared for, we didn't. I shouldn't say we didn't have time to. Is we wanted to do our word of the year, one individually and then collectively as a couple for a family. But you didn't have time to think about that today, I'm assuming.
No, but now that you say that, connection is a big one for me.
Yeah.
Connection to myself, connection to God, connection to you, connection to our family, connection to friends, uh, just connection. And kind of, you mentioned connecting the dots and your J dot. That's hilarious.
So
J dot Pine, the name you
J
got
dot.
from the Elevation crew.
Yeah. So
Um,
I've wanted to tell this story several times, but Facebook would not let me put J, the initial J. And I've never gone by JAY short for Jason. It just drives me crazy. I hate it. But for some reason, Facebook will not let me put J period. I could put J period C period, but it would never let me put J period. And so I was telling this story at my baptism the night before, baptism eve, as it was, I guess. Baptism Eve, where they had a special dinner for us in Columbus, and the Elevation team was there, and AJ Huko was there, and we were talking to him, telling me. So he's like, "All right, so you're J
he's a
dot
cool
now,
dude.
so just make it J dot." Like I'm like, so I literally that
Yes,
night I changed my Facebook profile to J dot, meaning J period, but it's J dot. So it's J dot. That's my DJ name.
it
It's J dot.
works.
So
It works.
we're still
And I
waiting
think
for
he said
Aneta's.
he's,
If AJ
we
ever
are.
listens to this, we're waiting for Aneta's nickname, AJ.
Yes, yes. Which I'm curious about that one because I didn't really divulge too much about my life,
Yeah,
so it would have to
yeah,
be, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, that was a good time, and so I think connection
yeah.
is
It's
the
a good
word.
one.
It's something that I've been focusing on, even just with friendships with moms. I'm a part of the MOPS group here in town. And for those who don't know, it's the mothers of preschoolers. And even though our kids aren't preschoolers, it's an opportunity for all moms to kind of get together. It's a Christian organization, but moms from all walks of life are able to join. Um, and it's interesting to see the connections forming, especially, and then you throw in the dynamic of the busy life, the little kids, even the big kids. And so that's a challenging thing to tackle, and yet um, we're making it work. So I'm excited to see where those connections go. I'm excited to see where my own faith is going. It's interesting because the Zoom call I was just on, I don't want to divulge too much because it is um, a closed group right now. But one of the people that I was speaking with actually talked about being in the church and having had to memorize Bible verses since he was little. Like, so for years and years and years, he's like, I can recite the King James version. And we had a conversation about um, how just I can't, I don't fathom that because we were not a Bible reading. I went to 13 years of Catholic school, and my mom is uber Catholic, and I grew up Catholic, but we never were about memorizing Bible verses. It was just something I would see like on a napkin or crocheted somewhere, or um, that kind of thing. So it's interesting, also to connect to other people of faith and to see um, just their connection to God, their connection to the church, their connection even to scripture. So, because it's not like I don't sit and read the Bible, and I know a lot of Christians are like, oh, I don't, have opinions about that, or that's what you need to do. And I'm kind of on this journey of connecting to God, um, and kind of seeing where that takes me. And it's interesting too because when we do listen to Elevation and Bible verses are read, I love that. Um, Now, would it be different if I was reading it on my own and not really getting um, that guidance? So that's interesting. That's something for me to think about.
Yeah, I think one of the things that having somebody like Elevation or like Richard's listening to the summer is that they're unpacking those things for us too.
Yes.
And obviously there's different interpretations of those things, and I think that's it's one of the things people. Go ahead, honey.
No, but it's amazing because even when we're talking to people who, or even for me personally, I'll speak for myself, I do find comfort when someone does know that and brings and tells me, says some words of comfort and is like, here, look here, and directs me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a different feeling than just like, here's this book that's 8
Right,
million pages long,
right.
it seems like. And, and, obviously the Old Testament is different from the New. And then so um, just, starting from the beginning, and people are like, I've read it from front to back, and I'm like, okay. I don't think I'm ever going to do that, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw that Josephine said, "Love you."
Oh, I love you too, Josephine. I can't wait to see you. We'll definitely talk about connection.
Yep.
Josephine and I went to high school together, and I don't know if we ever spoke a word to each other in high school.
Let us know if that's true, Josephine.
um, and then we connected via mutual friends on Facebook, and then got closer during the shutdowns and COVID pandemic, and so it's just I'm so grateful for Josephine and several others that I was able to reconnect with, or actually connect with for the first time. I don't know how to
She said
say
true.
that.
She
She
said
said
true.
true. Now she's like one of the I love her, so I'm so excited
Well, considering
that she's here. So
I
thank
don't
you.
know anybody really. I guess I do know a couple people that went to high school with Aneta. What was she like? What was Aneta like?
Josephine doesn't know because
Oh, well,
we
this is what she
never
said before I
interacted.
even asked because she couldn't have typed that fast. She was the smart one in the
Oh,
classes.
no,
Did you
it's
notice,
not, it's not
honey,
in the
that she
smart
didn't say
classes.
the funny one? She said the smart one.
No, she was the smart. I was in the smart classes. She
Oh,
said she didn't say that I
oh,
was
it
smart
was
one
in the
in
smart.
them.
Yeah. Well, you obviously were
No,
smart, but you were.
that's actually a whole other story. I'll tell a different day.
All right. Well, we're glad you're with us, Josephine. And
uh,
we've never met, but I've seen you, comment on our stuff and my stuff particularly, and particularly since the heart attack in May 13th, and I truly appreciate it, and not going to cry. All right. So. Let me bring my notes back up here. We're going to talk about the word, like the connection. I think is a good one for you. You'll have to think about that a little bit more. Mine last year was rise, and I had a great graphic for it and everything, and it just really fit. And I really had every intention. I don't know. There's still so much unfolding in my life that I lost sight of it a little bit. I guess I didn't lose sight of it. It's just I felt like I should have risen more. I know, if you're going to go back to I was baptized, so if we can go there with, being risen. But I was, when I chose that word, that wasn't the intention of that word at the time. It was rising up from where I was at, from all things, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. It just made sense. So, I've thought about, with your suggestion, maybe even using it again this year.
mhm.
Because I think, like what you said something last week about, what was the guy about taking the baton and running.
Mhm.
Who is that?
Pick up the baton and run.
Shelton,
Trent Shelton.
Trent Shelton, the ex
Trent
football
Shelton.
player.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that hit home. So maybe, it's moving that rise into a more active and away from passive thing. Or so I don't know. I'm still unpacking it. We'll see. All right.
Mhm.
Anything you want to add before we
So if
dive in?
you
Go ahead.
No, so I'm curious if anyone else has a word.
Yeah.
Richard, Nancy, Josephine, anyone else listening? If you have a word for the year, kind of. I know it's November, so a lot of people like to do that for the beginning of the year for January. Um, but it's a good, I think, tool to have kind of a little guide. We were
Yeah.
talking about guides. I think that's a nice anchor to have, so that you can everything I do then it's like, okay, connected
Yeah.
to that word, and I can evaluate, if that's a value of mine, am I living it? So Josephine, the next time I'm in Chicago, you bet I am going to meet up with you, because that is, I say that I want to spend more time with friends, with my loved ones, and then how often do I do that? And so making it a priority. um, so it's a good check-in.
Yeah. One last thing on the word. I remember, if Doug listens or is listening, that his and Monica's was new and renew. Which,
Ooh.
given their circumstances, Doug has a big
Yes.
move out back east to Virginia, um, and to run a ministry there, and so it's yeah. So especially it's interesting they chose new and renew, because it was new, but then renewing where they started, because they're coming kind of full circle. So I'll have to have
Mhm.
him on, and we'll talk about that, or we'll save it for when the pastor and professor kicks up. But Nancy and Richard just said something. My word last year was delight in the Lord.
Oh.
Haven't picked one yet this
Uh-huh.
year, so great,
Yeah.
awesome,
That was a good one too. I've never heard
awesome.
anyone use that one. I've heard of a number of people given me their words, and I've never heard delight. I love that.
Yeah, I do too. I have to think
Delight
about. I
in
have
the
to think
Lord.
about this one. I have to think about it. I don't know. Rise. I don't know. I'm not feeling like it. I did last year, but I got to think about it and put it in a little more. What's the word? A little more help.
Not perspective, a little more. I
Anyway,
don't know. I don't know what you're trying to
this is
say.
going to happen from time to time. All right,
That's
so
okay.
just sorry. The we're gonna not go through the at this moment segment, which is my weekly kind of check in of just a really quick how I'm doing spiritually, physically, emotionally, and cognitively. Actually, I take that back. I am going to dive a little bit into that, honey, because we talked about it a little bit, and Nancy and Richard are on there, and I want to clarify something. So one of the posts I have out is oh gosh, what was it? A walk up
A
song,
song?
a walk up song in heaven, and Nancy had shared a song by the Afters, who we're both fans of, and I love the Afters, and I had not heard this song Well Done, so I comment on Nancy saying, "Oh, I love the Afters. I haven't heard it. I'll go check it out." So I went and checked this out. Nancy, I'm going to apologize. This is not meant to. Yeah, I wasn't upset with you. I guess I know you're going to know that, but that song completely wrecked me. That I really haven't gotten over yet, because it talks about when you get to heaven, and heaven, Jesus, because it was out there's that post with Jesus wrapping the arms around you when you get into heaven, and the song is about him saying when we get there, saying to you,
Well done. Yeah.
saying well done, and
Mm-hmm.
and my first reaction to that was, I don't know if anger is the right word, but I was definitely something jealous. I don't know, because it flooded everything back for me about my confusion and frustration or anger or whatever the emotions are of being sent back. And I felt myself being, I don't know, envious or something, that I just like, why couldn't I had that, and 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 not sent back. Um, so I've had a hard time with that one. I've had to kind of just let it go and trust that God knows what He's doing. And again, He's not done with me yet, and I know that, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel it. But there's still part of me that I don't
Yeah.
I don't want to keep on saying it, but it's just it's not that I don't want to be here. That's not why I don't want to be with you. It doesn't mean I don't want to be with my babies. I mean, gosh, but it's hard to understand
Yeah.
if you weren't there
Yeah.
and you didn't see and feel what I saw.
Well, also, I would invite you to, and I've tried talking to you about this, about reframing that a little bit,
Mm,
because A, you're generally hard on yourself. A lot of people are. I'm like that as well. Very, very hard on ourselves. So even like with the rise word, it's like, you did a lot this year.
yeah,
And it's just not what you expected. You set very high expectations. Um, and so, again, acknowledging yourself for what you did do and how much you did do. So that's a huge part of that. So everyone, again, I encourage you to do acknowledgments. Acknowledge yourself for every movement forward, and every single day. I've seen you move forward many times a day, out of your comfort zone, just trying new things, trying to relearn the different things, do things differently. Um, and then the other aspect of that is, and this is where I'm going to be like, I get it, and I want you to honor the fact that you have these feelings that you were sent back, but you get to do it twice. So, you know what I mean?
I
You
know that
already had that
sounds grand and
experience,
lovely to everybody else. I
and now
get
you get
that.
to do it again at some point.
But if
Most
you
of us are
felt
only going to
what
get to
I
do it
felt, if
once.
you experienced what I experienced,
I know.
there's no way anybody would not feel the way I feel. I mean,
I
yes,
know.
they're going to be some of them will be much more thankful that they're back, and and show that gratitude more than I'm showing right now. But it, if you've experienced it, it's hard.
Sure.
It's hard.
Sure.
So I'm still working through that. So spiritually on the at this moment, I'm still struggling with that. It's still with me every day, and I'm trying to pray and have conversations with God about it, and go from there. Not that it set me back, but it resurfaced some things, and maybe that's good. I mean, it probably is. It probably is, because maybe part of that, maybe that moved me forward in some way, and being maybe more proactive, um, or it helps me get past it sooner, or my search, and this is what the show is about, my search for answers, my search for identity, maybe bringing that back up, you know puts that
Mhm.
front and center, where I have to deal with it, and not, because I think there's things that I need to do. I don't think I can turn it over to God and trust God's doing it, but I think there's active work that I need to do to go beyond. I don't know. Again, I don't know. So
Mhm.
anyways, so physically, I feel pretty good. Emotionally, I'm always a wreck right now. So I mean, it.
It happens. We're human.
I was like that. I
So
was like that before all this, but now, um,
true.
um,
True.
cognitively, we'll get into that I think a little bit later. So we'll talk about that.
So yeah. So well done by the afters.
So well done by the afters. Yeah. So
Listen to it. Listen
yeah,
to it. I'm going to listen
I
to
will
it.
not be listening to it again. It's a great song, and people are going to love it. It's funny because sorry, I'm going off on tangents, but one of the songs that I always loved, which a lot of people have loved and have shared with me through Heartbeat Radio, and it's a beautiful song, and I've always loved it. Is I don't if I can only, I can only imagine, by Mercy Me, and it's such an amazing song, but it's completely different for me now,
Oh,
because
see,
the
and I don't
lyric
like that song.
what oh
I'm not a
that's
fan of that
how
song.
do you not like that song?
I don't know.
What
It
is it
just it
about you don't
doesn't.
like? I don't
No offense.
understand.
I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But
Anyways, but the lyrics are just it's different for me. I mean, it's not that I don't enjoy the song. I don't listen to it anymore, just because it's not. I don't know. I can't explain it, but
mhm,
it's a different song. So there's things like that, along with like the after song, that again, music's powerful.
mhm.
So anyway,
Yeah,
all right. So thank you for is it bearing with us?
bearing with that with us. Yes.
That's the word, bearing.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So last week, Aneta shared her she shared May 13th, 2021, with you, from her perspective, from the moment she got the call with me, and even a little bit before that. Uh, and we're not going to go back through that now. You can go watch the video. Again, it was very helpful for me. I knew most of that story, but there's definitely things that I learned it and or saw in it that I hadn't before. So we left off, I think, when you basically when you got to Traverse City, right? Um, and you had gotten to Traverse City, and again, you talked about not knowing whether I was going to be here or not when you landed, and I think that's kind of where we left off. So I want to let you go from there and kind of tell you what from when time you landed, what happened, getting to the hospital, all that stuff, and then I have some
Well,
questions throughout
I
that.
am going to I
Good.
am going to keep it a little short, just because I am emotionally like up to here today, so I do not want to cry. Um, so I it's um obviously it was hard, right? I just from the get go. Getting to the hospital was hard. Getting there and they have all the COVID protocols kind of empty. Um, it was just not a pleasant
You mean at
experience.
capacity, not empty. Sorry, different conversation. Sorry,
Yes.
sorry.
And then so yes.
So how
And
did you get there?
we
How did you get to there?
Sarah. Oh, that's right. That's right, because I had asked the nurse, or actually when they were taking you up to the cath lab, I had said have the nurse leave the keys for me, um or maybe before. No, hold on. I have to rethink that. I have to see. I have to look at um, the notes I
Oh, that's right.
have
I had the car I drove.
because you had the car, but I distinctly remember. No, that was after. It was after you were already awake. I had asked the nurse to leave me the keys or some. I don't remember.
No, because I wasn't awake yet.
I
You were already here.
right, right. So I don't remember.
Well,
I
how did you get from the
either
airport to the hospital?
Sarah. So my friend picked me up, and then
And Cubby
she
wasn't
dropped me
there
off.
with her now, right?
No, no. So Sarah had picked up me and Juju and dropped Juju off at our friend Colleen's house. So the kids were fine. And then she drove me to the hospital. And then because because it was COVID, whatever, they would only allow one visitor per day, which again is a whole other story to talk about. But so they'd only allow one visitor per day. And I think this is the part where you're going to cry because I go upstairs. And again, last time I talked a little bit about how um, all these little miracles and all these angels and helpers um, were everywhere along the way. And I had gone upstairs to the because you were in the ICU already. I didn't know you had already come out of surgery. So the surgery took however long, and I thought you still might be in there. But the nurse came out to me and said that you they had just taken you back to the room, and or they just needed a few moments to kind of get everything set up. And so I was waiting in the hallway. Um, and now I am going to cry because this nurse, and I forgot his name. I have it written down. Um, he looked at me and he's like, "It's going to be okay." And he pulled down his nurses, um, what's it called? His scrubs. And he had a long scar down the middle of his chest. He had several heart surgeries. Um,
Well, I think he
and
had he had an emergency bypass like I had.
he had
Yeah.
emergency surgery, and then I know he had another one. So um, he's kind of he was just like, I've been there. I know what it's like. I'm going to take good care of him. And I started crying and I hugged him and I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. And then at that time, your brother Mark came through the door, which I know was huge for you, to know that he was there. He lives in Ohio, but he happened to be downstate Michigan
In Ludington.
for a business meeting that day. And so when he heard the news, he just got in that car and drove up to the hospital. Um, and so it was twofold. Like, one, I was so thankful that he was there. Um, he was a huge support to me. He was a huge support, I think, later to you, knowing that he did that for you.
Yeah, I didn't know for a
Um,
while, but
but I was also I was glad of his timing because if he had gotten there, and maybe they would have made an exception, but I don't know how strict
well,
their
he also
rules
was
were.
cognizant of that too.
He knew that he wasn't sure if I was going to make it to Michigan that day because we were not in
So,
communication.
but he
Obviously, he
also
wasn't in
did he
communication with
have
you.
any word? I mean, did he not have an update yet? Did he know I was out and alive at that point?
No, no,
Or
because I don't think so. Because I'd been on the phone with your mom, so I had just been telling your mom that I got to the hospital. I literally just picked out. I talked to the nurse. He said we just need a few moments to, get him in the room and situated and everything hooked up, and then
so then you talked to my
it was.
mom, so my mom knew that.
So then I talked to your mom and I told her, that you were out of surgery and I was waiting to go see you. Um,
Can I stop you real quick, honey? Can you
sure.
can you tell me about so you get the call from the cath lab about what happened, and can you tell me about calling my mom and what you said and what happened? And
I have it journaled. I do not recall exactly what I said to her because I also knew that she would be stressed and I didn't want to stress her, especially not knowing. I didn't want to call her and tell her, I don't know. I just said, I did, I do. I'm assuming I told her you need to have the bypass,
mm-hmm,
or that you were having a heart attack
mm-hmm.
issue as we were speaking. Um, but I honestly, I don't remember her reaction. I immediately went into, I need to get Juju. We need to get out of here.
Okay.
mode.
I hadn't thought
So
about
I
that
remember
call,
telling her,
but
and I journaled about it. I cried about it. I did, I've also kind of just put up that
yeah.
block right now.
Okay, so you get there,
So
you get to the hospital, and
get get to the hospital, see your brother. So anyway, I was saying that they were only allowing one visitor per day for people, which again to me is crazy. But they had he gotten there a little earlier, totally wouldn't have blamed him for going in because again he didn't know if I was
right,
showing up, not showing up. He was not in communication
and
with
he didn't
anyone,
know,
and I had not
and he
contacted
didn't
mom
know if
yet,
I was alive yet.
and
Still,
he didn't know if you were alive or not. So so it was just again divine timing that I got there probably 10 minutes before he did. So I was able to go up and I remember just seeing, and I was just like, I was speechless because obviously people who have had loved ones in the hospital, it's scary seeing the person you love just, you know, with tubes everywhere, and you were intubated at that time. You're on the vent. Um, and I don't, I, so here's the part I don't remember. I remember leaving the hospital. Um, and you know what? That's what it was. No, I do remember. I went in and you were still completely out. Right. So
so
the
it wasn't
anesthesia had
that
not worn
moment
off.
that I heard your voice. It was later.
No,
Yeah,
no.
that
So and
day or two later or
here's
something.
the and so here's like the weirdo thing. It's like, you don't think about, like, I was not thinking rationally at that point. They had told me that, so it was evening time by now, and they're like, visiting hours are going to be over soon. And I was like, okay. And they had said that you were still probably going to be out for the rest of the night. So the best thing I could do was just go home because there was nothing to update. You were just going to be out cold.
And you had the kids.
So I had, Colleen had been with the kids all day, and I felt bad about that. So, I was like, I need to go pick up the kids, and, um, I'll call back first thing in the morning. The nurses were awesome. They gave me the number to, call as many times as I needed to check in. But for some reason, in my head, I imagined that after you had had a heart attack and quadruple bypass, that in the morning I would come in and talk to you and see you and everything was going to be great. Um, I had not like, even it had not crossed my mind that they had given you anesthesia and probably things that again you were allergic to, and I know what happens when you if the doctors give you narcotics, that messes you up. You are allergic, you cannot have narcotics. So but in my mind the only thing I could think about was visiting hours are going to be over. Oh my gosh, if you wake up and no one is there with you, I don't even want to go there. Like, what would you think? Because you didn't know. The last thing you knew was that you were going to the cath lab to have that put in. So I went to Walgreens right before they closed, and I blew up pictures of us. I blew up pictures of me, of us as a family, of our kids, and even I think something with having to do with the Buckeyes or Cleveland, one of those things, or maybe both teams. And I had these like loose, whatever the biggest picture I could print out at Walgreens was. And so I was like, when he wakes up, at least he'll see our faces,
So did you give them
right?
to the nurse to put
Again,
up, or did you put them up, or
no. So that's when I came back, and literally they're like, visiting hours are going to be, over in 10 minutes. I was like, I just want to put this up. So that's when I go in there and leave it to you to be like the anomaly out of all the things. They told me you would be out for like the until morning. I walk in and I ask the nurse a question, and you hear my voice. You immediately start trying to talk and start choking on the vent.
it was one of the worst moments of the entire thing for me.
Oh my gosh.
Because I didn't know.
It was so
I heard your
scary.
voice. Not, I didn't know. Like before I heard your voice, I wasn't conscious, and I heard your voice. So I naturally went to just talk to you, and I couldn't. The panic, the level of panic was just. I knew I was in trouble.
Right.
I was like,
So you
did they
started
give me something?
convulsing. Yes, because you
Yeah,
started convulsing.
yeah.
And that's a very scary thing to witness when, like, you're sitting there and you're convulsing. And and so the nurse is asking me questions.
I
I'm not
wouldn't
going
be
to
able to
talk. I'm
handle
not going to
seeing that with you. Or
well, so I didn't want to talk because I didn't want you to hear my voice again. So I just was like, I went like this, and I like, asked if the nurse could talk to me outside in the hallway. And they gave you something to kind of calm you down and get you not to try to,
yeah,
your hands were tied down. Um, and so I talked to the nurse, and she's like, "Oh, obviously the anesthesia is wearing off sooner than we thought." And I was like, I remember at that point, I was like, "Well, thank God it wasn't when he was still on the table." Like, oh my gosh. So, yes, so I basically just went in super quietly. Your eyes were closed, and I just taped up the pictures again, not thinking that you didn't have your glasses on, you would be able to see
well, you
anything.
found out that right. So I do remember at some point uh, seeing these things on the wall. And they looked like pictures. Again, I didn't even really know where I was, but I was like, what is, huh? I
You
was like,
probably saw the Cleveland. You probably saw the Cleveland Browns one or the Ohio
no,
State one
I
first.
saw
And like,
you guys. I knew it was you guys, but I didn't know what pictures were. But I also didn't know why they were there. So I didn't know where I was. I was like,
yeah,
what? I don't remember having those pictures in my office, or I just so
yeah. So yes, that's what it was. So the nurses, I thankfully did not say another word to you that day. But then for the next 3 days, you were just completely out of it. I had to keep reminding them that like, don't give him any narcotics. You cannot give him any because that's going to take him back to square one because of the allergies.
yeah, because
So
vomiting. That's the part I was so drugged up for so long because like once they knew that, I mean, I think they knew about the narcotics, but they've known about the narcotics before and still gave them to me when the
that's why I felt like I had to call every,
yeah.
like I set my alarm to call every shift change just to make sure. And I'm telling you, most of the nurses, and they were just incredible. So, huge props to them. Um, they kept me informed all the time. They told me what was going on. But I mean, they kept you in the ICU longer than, and mostly they
I
wanted you
stayed
out
in there
after
the
the
whole
three
time.
days. You stayed in there the whole time. And again, that's one of those F you to thank you moments where I was just like, other people would have been panicking, like, oh my gosh, she's still in the ICU. I was like,
I
thank you,
was,
Lord.
yeah,
Thank you, Lord, that you are in the ICU and that you have one nurse focused on you um,
yeah,
to help you when I couldn't be there because I had the babies.
yeah. Well,
Um,
I couldn't imagine like, and again, I didn't. It was really only the last day that I was even,
Semi aware of
yeah.
everything.
But like what was I gonna say? What were you just saying?
I don't know. You were drugged up in the ICU, being thankful for the fact
Oh,
that you were in the ICU.
the thought of vomiting and getting sick from the narcotics
Oh,
or
yeah.
the anesthesia. I was more worried about the anesthesia. Vomiting with my chest stapled together.
Yeah.
That the thought of that still shakes me. I'm like, oh, that would have been. So that's why they had her. It was like such a fine line of keeping me. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
And I do remember the other thing I remember, again, it's crazy what the brain picks up on. I remember that one dude being in there who I think was younger than you were and was like, looked really fit. And I think later I found out that he was like a runner or something.
didn't we see him
Um,
at the doctor's office?
and then we saw him at the doctor's office
Yeah, he was
for
doing
a
more. He
follow
was doing much
in our
better than I
follow
was
up.
then too.
But he was also in a different state going in. Like the fact that like I would have never imagined that he had open heart surgery because of a heart attack. Like he was a fit
Yep.
runner and had a heart attack. And so that was hard too. But I
I
also
remember being
saw like
really
his
upset about
stories
that at that first
support that.
doctor's. Sorry, honey, that first doctor's office and seeing him and being so upset that I was the way I was. I was a mess. And again, there's other reasons for that, but I remember being really
Yeah,
upset.
sure, sure. And again, everyone has their own.
Yeah. So, all right. So it took me a few days, and I remember not knowing, and I, I didn't know what happened. You guys had to keep on retelling me what happened until it kind of sunk in, but it wasn't really until I felt the staple that I even knew something. I'm like, what?
Mhm.
But even
I
after,
think you asked the nurse. You had asked the nurse what happened,
yeah, I remember
and one of
asking,
the nurses
or
had told you.
they said I had to ask Coltex. I kept on asking. I didn't remember
Hmm.
it. So okay. So let's. the hospital was, that, and I was there for what, 7, 8 days.
So, but at 7 days or 8 days, whatever it was,
Yeah.
and then you came out, and of course we were at the campground, so that
Yeah.
was a whole other adventure. Um,
Well,
and
yeah. So we got to the campground. I do remember that first night. I was thankful to go home. Um,
I wasn't. I was scared.
yeah,
I was terrified because I didn't know what we were going to do. How we had
small
the
camper.
the small camper, the queen bed in it that I have to climb over, um, you to get out, and so
Only because I
yeah,
can't
and I didn't know.
can't sleep on the inside.
Yes. And so it was I'm so thankful for the camp staff that was there. Everyone was there, super supportive, asking what we needed, being willing to help at anything. And I'm grateful for the in-home health visits too. We had a nurse coming out um, to the campground, and I loved that you were on the meadow, that we were able to put you on the meadow.
Site 31,
We had a
yo.
beautiful view. We had a beautiful view, so peaceful, and I thought, okay, this is the place to be. This is where, because I was thinking, like, thank God we weren't in Chicago when this happened
I think about that all the
either.
time.
It would
I
have been
think about that
it
all,
would have been
all
a
the time.
different experience as well. So yeah. So, and since then we've had, you know, again, it's been a journey, recovery. Oh, Jennifer's on. Hi, Jennifer. So Jennifer and I also went to high school together and had not a lot of interaction. Again, that's so crazy. I think they
So
were part of
with
this group
Josephine,
with Josephine,
dude,
and I
Jennifer and
never actually.
Josephine know each other.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, home
Um,
healthcare is amazing, Jennifer. Thank you.
yes, Jennifer is a nurse.
Oh,
Am I right? Right, you're a home health. Are you a home health nurse or I forgot exactly what I think nurse, but I don't know the
yes. Yeah,
details.
she said yes.
Yes, I'm not sure of what setting it's in.
No, that was a
Um,
big. I was so thankful for that. Going out. First of all, I that first night was. It was sleeping was not good. And I was panicked. Josephine says hi, Jennifer. Um, um, I was so panicked that first night. I'm like, I mean, I was in so much pain trying to sleep, and it was like I had to be up. It was awful. But
well, yeah.
the
Well, and also we didn't have the pain meds because we couldn't give you narcotics, and so
right,
we were trying to figure out the right pain
yeah. I'd
combo to help
forgotten
you.
about that. I had forgotten the pain I had forgotten about. But you're right. I was in pain for months because of that. I mean,
Yeah,
I ended up having the gabapentin
which
that
helped.
worked enough to, you know, tide
Yeah,
it over. But I do remember the meadow. I mean, the things that I remember is that first night, the staff, getting there and them making sure all you guys were okay.
yeah.
Um, and
Oh, Jennifer's us.
yeah, we had a great experience with them.
Yeah,
So I remember the meadow. So we're on this. Shout out to all my Starlight peeps. That it's an amazing place. It's beautiful, amazing people, and that made all the difference in the world. I felt so close to God.
definitely angels, 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 right there in human form.
Yeah,
Um,
they had to get me in and up out of into a chair, one of my zero gravity chair, and for 2 months or so, and I'd sit out there all day basically until I had to go inside unless it was raining or something. But the staff taking care of making sure that I was okay, but most importantly for me that you guys were all taken care of, and your mental
coming
well-being
by
was
to
good, and
talk.
taking care of the
Yeah.
kids, and thank God again for the kids, because the kids had God, I forgot. So, honey, this is one of the things I want to get into. I had forgotten about this. So all of a sudden, I'm the way I am.
Oh, Juju had broken
Yeah, Juju broke her foot the second day or something.
or
Is in a
sprained her foot,
cast, and
right?
and
Which
but
so
they
the
still had
first 2 days,
school.
shoot,
They had school. They're doing
yeah.
school, which you didn't do. What did you do about work? Where were you working at? Had you not?
No, because I was waiting for my Michigan license to come in because it had
Right,
expired because we were
because you had
planning on
already left
moving
the resort because okay.
of COVID and we were going to move. And
So
so I
yeah, this
started
isn't
that
stressful at all.
process.
Your husband's, on the brink of death and like doesn't
So,
know where he's at, and then you
yes,
have no
yes. No, the
job.
kids were
You have to
great.
take care of everybody. Um,
The kids were amazing. And then the like second
oh,
day,
thank you, Josephine.
Juju. Oh, thank you,
It's my
Josephine.
it's my it's my
Um,
stutter, isn't it?
our Juju sprained her ankle really badly, so my number one helper suddenly turned into a little had hurt her paw, and so we had to, um, deal with that. So then Cubby had to step up. So he did. He did.
Yeah, but I mean, again, so this is one of the things that I wanted to get into with you is I mean, we had just moved in the camper that day for you. I guess back for me, I was only there for a few hours, and all of a sudden you have to take care of me and not knowing from me and being scared that you could take care of me and you're not working. Bills are piling up. The kids still have school. It's like,
Yeah, but again, it's one of those things where humans are resilient, and you just go on autopilot and you do what needs to get done. And that's the thing about, so thankful for the staff that was there. Um, for people who checked in and seeing if we needed anything. Again, that's what community and support and connection is about, because I could not, if it were just me, I probably could not have done it. Um, but because we had a support system in place, I was able to say, "Hey, I have to go do this. Can I leave the kids with you? Can you keep an eye on the kids for a little bit?" Um, and again, it just seemed like things aligned. Where on the surface it seemed like complete and total chaos, but there were always underlying little, like, just little miracles. Like thank God we were at the campground where the kids can run freely, um,
and the
and
weather was pretty
do
good.
their work, and the weather was fantastic. And um, and I did start working shortly after, but by then you were well enough for my license had gone through, and it was a quick process where they were able to approve my relicensure in Michigan, and I was able to go to work. But even then, I was like the low person on the ladder, so I had a lot of time off. So I was able to
Where
make
did you
enough
go
for us
back
to get
to?
by.
Did you go back to the resort?
No, I was contemplating between the
So where did
resort
you?
and
Where?
going,
I'm
because
sorry, honey. I'm just not remembering.
remembering,
Um,
yeah.
because you didn't get the job at Boyd until late, right? That was like August or something, wasn't it?
Um, Yes, but I still think we were able to get the unemployment from the COVID response for that period in between. So
Thank
that
you, Jennifer.
covered.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So that covered most of our. So at least our basics were covered. Like I knew that we had a roof over our head, we had food
Oh,
on the table,
yeah, because
and so
I remember you being stressed about that now because I was the one making sure that all the filings and everything
yes.
were
So
done.
here's the thing, guys. I will tell you this: when someone in the government offers you help, take it. Assume the worst, because I remember talking to the social worker saying, like, we need to make sure our insurance is in place, because I had just lost my insurance
And we
during
didn't,
COVID,
and we yeah
because
we did,
I
so we didn't have insurance.
because because we didn't go to because insurance, I had just gone full time at the resort right before the shutdowns, and so
So we
everything shut
lost
down
that
in
because of
March,
that.
and so we lost our insurance because of that.
So yeah,
And
not another
so
stressor for you at
so I
all.
was freaking out. So I had to call a social worker and be like, "Look, we lost our insurance. I don't know what to do." And she's like, "Don't worry, we'll help you out." And she had asked, like, "Oh, do you want your husband to apply for disability?" And I was like, "Disability? No. The doctor said he'd be fine in 3 months. No." And again,
We'll
it's
get
like
there.
I wish I would have taken that help, because I didn't know the cognitive ramifications of the heart attack and all the concussions, and how that would impact our lives today, a year and a half later. Um, but we got through it, and that's the human spirit. We just get through it.
I remember thinking that there's something we shared last week. I just want to reiterate. I think that like it was at this point that even despite right, that's despite
Mhm.
all
Right.
that, um, there was a sense of excitement, some ironically a sense of
Yes.
excitement that finally that we were this was the thing that was we needed to finally become who we were supposed to be, to become the power couple that we were at one time, to live the lives that we wanted to live, and just were struggling to get there because of life and I think so. There was that. I remember feeling that, but I also remember. Sorry, a little gurgle there. I remember. I remember being so proud of you
Oh,
and feeling so bad, that because she's not going to be upset that I say this is not your strength. Taking care of
no,
people is not your it's not your
caregiving is
strength.
not my strength.
Um, we've had
I'm
these
a
battles
great
before
massage
with
therapist.
yeah,
Yes, I'm a great massage
caregiver,
therapist.
not her
Huge
strong point,
difference.
and you all of a sudden were thrust into having to lead this entire family and with school and taking care of a
Yes.
ill husband and the stress of not having a job and no insurance and all that stuff. And I remember that excitement of the future, weirdly, and being so proud of you and being thankful because I felt like you needed that. Like I felt like you were going through so much outside of all this, and really not struggling right the word, but searching and trying to find your place in the world. And again, having babies and that and stress and all that stuff, it was difficult for you. And I hadn't seen that confident woman that I fell in love with in a long time. And I remember that this was kind of thrust you into it. You didn't have time to think about it or anything, or talk
To
yourself out of
doubt or
anything or
have
whatever.
your
This was
sure.
doubt yourself. This was you didn't have a choice, and you did it. And I remember
Hmm.
being so proud of you. And I remember thinking that this was really good for you. And that's one of the reasons I feel bad now, because little did we know 18 months later, we're still in the same, situation in a lot of ways, not, but,
In a lot of ways.
you are.
Right.
And, so, there's a lot of, I don't know, guilt's the right word, but it's, I don't know.
Again, I feel like again it's so strange. I just feel like there's a bigger picture here that we don't see yet necessarily, but I know that it's there. So,
So
um,
I want to ask one thing, and we're going to end with this, because I want to. I don't, because all of it's fuzzy to
thank
me
you,
still.
Jennifer.
Um, she did do amazing, and and I think even as amazing as she did, then having to do this for another 18 months.
Again, sweetie, it's like you do things for the people that you love. I know, we do things for the people that we love, and that's all I can say is just I mean, there is no
Yeah, but
other
it's not. I know
option,
it's not
right?
easy,
I
and I know
mean,
how stressed you are, and I know that you know,
it's okay.
and
But
that's
that's where
why
the
that's
support and
why
connection comes in.
my frustration with wanting you to understand a little bit more, to hopefully give you a little more patience internally, because you have been patient, but I know that it's hard, but I wanted to ask about um and well, Jennifer, this is your first time joining us. I cry all the time, so I it's so so I want I wanted to ask you, um so when did I start telling you about everything that had happened, about me being gone and being sent back? And because the way I remember it is, like, I was still not, even when I was home, I was sitting in that chair and just, like, I was having these just long conversations with God, and really questioning and why, and especially the music at that time. Again,
That was what I was going to say is the music.
the
That's
reason,
what you basically
go ahead, honey. Well, I was going to say,
no. I
the
mean,
reason the show is called graves into gardens because that's the song that came to me prior to the heart attack the previous winter, and it's the first song I played, and hearing it differently, and again having that feeling I just mentioned about being excited that this is how God was going to finally get me to where He needed me to be, and really feeling like He was turning my grave into a garden. Um, and again that again same thing comment I made just a few minutes ago is that is why I'm frustrated and feel what I'm feeling now is because it's been 18 months and I guess I wanted it to be a faster process. I wanted flowers already, um, but so that's why I that was it's named that. But I remember things coming to me. Things still come to me that have like the cloud of witnesses that we had talked about in the first episode. Um, that greeted me. I still see faces that I didn't recognize before. But when did I start sharing any of that? Because I have no recollection of how that all transpired, or and what your response to it was. Because I was in my own thing. I didn't know how you were thinking. You thought I was crazy, or you didn't. I don't know.
Well, I didn't think you were crazy because I remember last week I talked about Anita Morjani and her story.
Yeah, yeah.
So that I felt like that had laid the groundwork because I believed her and she had a similar experience. And I don't think you knew of her. Maybe I mentioned her, but
Yeah,
I know
no,
you didn't
I
really
knew
know
of
of her
her.
story. You knew of her, but I don't think you knew, the details. And so it was a while, but you were just listening to a lot of music. And part of it was I was so busy, taking care of things that we didn't talk a lot. It was more about the physical, like, are you okay? And you would just start tearing up and we'd listen to music and we just sit there. Um, and that was it. It wasn't until probably, gosh, was it a few weeks later that you said you have a lot to tell
I
me,
have no idea.
but talked about we went, I think it was around a campfire that we were talking and you told me. So it's a lot.
And what was your
I think that's a good,
response?
again, at first I questioned like, well, when, obviously we're like, is the med, are you high now? Cause remember they gave you the stuff to make you eat cause you're
Yeah,
eating.
yeah.
So they gave you the
Was it a
medicine
big
that
red
the drugs,
crab? Is that what it was?
something.
They
They
give
gave
me
you some sort
they'd give me
of,
some THC stuff for pain because I couldn't take narcotics. I've never taken that stuff. I've never smoked even. I know it's weird. Um, uh, and so they gave me this THC, and I remember we're sitting there and we're talking. She's in one zero gravity chair on the other, and I'm like, she's talking. I'm just looking at her like, there's like a big giant red crab behind you, and she's like, what the hell? And then she also fell. She was making fun of me because she fell somehow, and she thought I was just. But then all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, you're high." I'm like, "Oh."
that's what it was. Yeah, I realized that it was the medication. So
I don't think
at
I've
first
taken
I
it
was like,
since.
what is going on with the medication? No,
Anyway,
no.
so
But yeah, so I mean, yes, it's obviously a huge story. But again, Anita Morjani, that laid work. I saw the miracles with my mom. And I felt like at peace when you said that. I was like, what a magnificent experience. Maybe you didn't think so. Obviously, you
oh,
didn't
I
because you
did.
were, upset that you got sent
I
back.
did. It's
Well,
the
but then
part
you were
saying
sent
sent back
back.
is the.
Right, that part. But and you told me in little bits and pieces until one day you told me again, retold it kind of like the full thing. But I think that's
Yeah, I think I remember a couple of different conversations, not details, but I remember I wasn't ready for the whole thing at one time
uh,
either because like again there's faces that I saw.
well, I will tell you I remember you saying that you saw your animals. And this is the part I am going to cry that you were holding that someone was holding our baby that we had lost,
I
that we
don't
had
know
miscarried.
if it
So,
was her or not. I mean, I don't know because
but
my grandmother who was holding her um, had seveal stillbirth, like three
so
stillbirth.
so could have been one of those babies.
Yeah, I kind of sensed it wasn't. I still can't. I still can't with that. I can't.
Okay, we won't talk about that right now. I'm getting
Um,
teary eyed too, so I think this is a good place
so
to
yeah,
stop for this session. Maybe we talk about that other stuff later,
yeah.
but
I think moving forward, I'd like to have you back on, and again, just have open conversations about different things that I'd like to talk about, but more like specific topics like jobs and just the cognitive stuff and the dealing with that. Just smaller smaller chunks than what we've done so
Sure.
far, and just focus on that. That the episodes can be 30 minutes, 45 tops.
Shorter, sure,
And
sure.
and me not
This was just
gabbing.
again telling the story. This is the first time that I've told kind of the story publicly. I've told a few people, but I just,
Yeah,
so
and I still
it's good to get it out.
there's still things that'll pop up as when I think of them that I still want to ask you. I mean, I have a whole list of things here that I just have topics like God working in our family. Um, Thank you, Jennifer. Um, God working in our family, um, financial stress, work, the aphasia, and executive dysfunction. You mentioned disability, trusting God, all of us, identity, where we go from here, what our next steps are, what our dreams are, all those things I still want to work. How, I want to talk to you about, the burden of your role over the last 18 months and holding down the fort and that weight and frustration and stuff. So
Well, I
there's a
think that
lot.
self care too. So I think a lot of people need that conversation,
Yeah.
self
Yeah.
care, because caregivers, I mean, as a massage therapist, I can usually tell whenever a client comes in and their shoulders are rock hard. I'm like, either you have a manual, like a physical job where you're like in construction or something and you're housekeeping even, and
Or your
your
husband
back
had a
is just one
quadruple
solid rock,
bypass and died.
or your husband or something, or you're a caregiver. Nurses come in all the time and I'm just like, you need to get more massages because we carry all of our shoulds, all of the I have to, I need to, right in our shoulders. And so the importance of self-care and even I know, well, again, we'll talk about this at a later episode, but you connecting with people and realizing that other men have gone through this. I mean, obviously women have heart attacks
Yep.
as well and surgeries like this, but even the men, it was just like you've had these connections where people are like, I haven't really talked about it because of like expectations set up. And so it's important everyone voices their story. It's
Yeah.
important that people take care of themselves. Go
Yeah,
ahead, you can say
I
something.
think one of the episodes I'd like to dive more into that about the stuff that you're doing to keep yourself sane and healthy and strong and tough through this, and maybe giving others some tips on doing that if they're going through other things that that's applicable to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many different topics in here to talk about, but you know, one of the things that I feel like this show is doing is moving forward with you a part of it too is putting our family back together, because I feel like that's part of it. Again, I think it's that going back to the word of like it's taking the baton and running and turning the passiveness in our lives, putting more action behind it and moving forward, not waiting for everything to be perfect or not necessarily having to have the answers. There's still stuff with me that I
Sure.
can't do, and I'm struggling with that, and I'm trying to, like I told you today, I'm trying to be patient and learning ways to do things, and it might take me long, and it's frustrating because it's not how I would normally do them or did before, and it still seems lesser to me, like I'm lesser than I was, and it's really hard. But so there's so much to talk about. But again, yeah, it just hold on, Jennifer just posted something here. Yeah,
Jennifer remembers her dad feeling that way when her mom had to do this for years when he was sick.
yeah.
And the power of true love. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one
Yeah.
thing too. Is he's like Aneta and I have said this, and I've said this, publicly before the heart attack, that we've been through so much stress, and I know there's certainly other people have been through much more than we have in the loss of children and loved ones and stuff like that. So I'm not anywhere comparing that. But our life together has not been easy for the most part. There's been a lot of great moments and a lot of high points, but it's been a lot of stress too. So we always, we're always amazed that we're still together after everything we've been through, all the stress, and like usually financial
Yes.
stuff just tears people apart. And not that we don't have our moments, because we do. Um,
Couple that with five
but
other things, six other things,
yeah,
but
but that
again,
we're still standing, and the fact that we're still standing through this is remarkable.
yeah.
But now it's time to start putting it back together. And I think
Yeah.
putting you talking to me on the show is helping us put that back, having conversations that we haven't had before, and again, connection. I think that was a really great word, honey, because I feel like we need more of this, and connection,
Hmm.
and and then
Examples and stories. I mean,
yep,
Jennifer, thank you for sharing that about your mom and dad. Like, people go through this. These are all things that people experience, yet we don't talk about with people necessarily. Unless you join a specific group, it's just like we don't have dinner conversations where it's like, you know what, this week was really hard because I feel guilt and I feel shame and I feel this. Those aren't dinner topics you have with friends generally. It's
yeah,
usually, especially now, it's just I get together with friends once a year sometimes, and I'm just like, it's all small talk. And I'm thankful for the group of girls there. I know I met with Jennifer, or not with Jennifer, but Jennifer, we have to meet up as well next time the group gets together. But I met with Josephine, and it's like I love that we can get together and have keep it as light and airy as we want or go as deep as we want, and there's that safety there that I'm super grateful for. So I hope more of this. Jennifer, I hope that we have more conversations together. Jay, same thing. Us, Richard, Nancy, just all that's connection.
yep. All right, everybody. Well, thank you, and please, share this out to your friends and family. They don't have to join us live. All the replays are out
Thank you.
there. If they want to hear my full story, watch episode 1 and episode 2. That tells you the kind of the full story of what happened in my death and being sent back and so forth. You can always go back and watch those, but we'll continue to move forward. We're going to continue to try to get shorter and shorter, which means I need to shut up.
Yes, we won't be. It won't be an hour and a half long.
I
We
love you
promise.
guys.
So we
Thank
love you
you.
guys. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.